going through a lot right now with COVID and the fires and all the stuff going on. So it's a very trying time. So please be gentle with each other. We definitely need to be taking care of each other nowadays. So
the bear fires, what's
be gentle with each other?
The Clipper Mill.
At the trails.
You want your mask?
We start with a clean slate because today we're going to do all things burnish. David Byrne, Tom Tom Club, and a lot of talking heads. So if you're a fan, or if you know a fan, call your friend that's a fan or your family member that's a fan. Get them on board for the fun house today. Let's start with the King Stones. This is Power Man. We got about halfway through this. Ooh, I love this.
The other camera charts. So
You haven't seen it before, you haven't had your mind blown. First off, we're going to play from American Utopia is Blind, and looking forward to seeing this.
Grandpa's favorite song. Doesn't like to live it. Fire in the Mountain.
We're listening to it last night, huh?
Yeah. Hidden underneath the pyrocumulus. You can feel the scalar naked tropics in it. Fucking quiche lemmings, man. You just don't understand what you're doing. Low pressure tire signal just came thing on. Naked tropics. Tell when you're getting hit with that shit because it always makes the pressure in the car tires and shit change. Give you those weird CME coronal mass ejection, large flare days, tickles and stuff. Yeah. Fine tuning that shit. We gonna clap back. Animals laying down and sleeping. Yeah, that's an interesting sign right there. They either inside you there, or they're just laying down to die. Fuck. Water when they cut the damn power off, man. Crazy. Shit. Relative to solar panels and fucking. Let's see. What the fuck to do? Relative to solar panels and shit.
Generator, solar panel, things that are worth money if you want, battery.
Bring him down to the shop.
Yeah.
And the ready lines, all that kind of stuff we can't replace. Don't have the money to fucking replace.
That's the only thing that has value that we have up there.
Except for the backhoe and all that shit.
Well, yeah, honey, but
Grab that stuff and put it on there. Yeah, the generators, ready lines. All the crystals and shit like that are at the shop already, so.
it's like it don't seem
Watch them rocks.
it don't seem as windy up here than was in town.
Look at that shit. Damn, dude. The smoke this morning when we got up looked fucking awfully odd. Blew up into this. Crazy ass wind over the nighttime. How did we get to this? How did we get to this? Extreme emergency alert.
Where's that?
Issuing an immediate evacuation order for Berry Creek, Brush Creek, Forbstown, Clipper Mills, Feather Falls area due to fire.
Forbstown too now?
Yeah.
Yeah, then we gotta
Go. Just go.
Yeah. Just grab what
And
we
Berry
got.
Creek was the place we tried to take the 74-year-old Rastafarian brother we picked up hitchhiking.
Oh, is that a power line down?
What? Are you alright, dude?
Yeah, no, these two wires, they look hella low.
You got hypersensitive, how do you say, just stay cool, man. So power line's fine.
Like that little structure.
this way. Don't go that way, honey. Go this way. Because they about to block the shit off. Go this way and take the back way. Yeah. Driving into the eye. Shit right there. First time ever Robella does 25 through here. Which I don't understand when we drive. My first time ever she drives the extra speed limit. Loggers picked up. We're gonna have to take the cut before Woodleaf because I have a feeling they're gonna have Woodleaf cut off.
We're gonna take this road right here that we always take.
That's what I'm saying. 'Cause they're gonna have Woodleaf be the standing point.
Yeah. Oh, that looks crazy right there. No lights, they even the fucking lights on. In the dark.
Get up here and disappear on them. They're gonna have to go all the way down and turn around right there when the loggers is at.
Oh, really? Gorgeous. Love a real good day out here in the mountains.
Yeah, I should have grabbed one of them walkie-talkies. Yeah, that shit was burning up bubbles. That smoke we seen this morning, why it was all cloudy when I looked over this one, it was like, how is it so smoky over here? How windy it is. That don't make no sense. And it's because of the fire that way.
Yesterday we were a day ahead.
Yeah. This was not clear this morning.
Today we woke up too early.
Slow down. Is that a Jeep? Oh, that's a diesel. Is that a diesel? Yep, logger. That dude crept up on you hella fast. Let him know you turn into the left as we come into this. It's as fast as he's coming. So we don't get fucking sandwiched. And you're clear. What's up, it's Bubba still, babe. There's a spotter plane there. Got enough food and gas, water. We can cut a path. The shit's above us, so where the blackberries is. We just turned that into hip camp and parking. Cut that all the fuck down. Man, wish the backhoe wasn't down on the bottom so I could use the choker and pull shit, but we got the car. We can fucking do what we do. We gotta do. come through the soaper. That's the only thing that's gonna be beautiful is they done fucking cleared this shit above us on the woodleaf side. That's the only thing that's gonna save our ass. Only thing is they thinned the fuck out of that. That's the only thing that's going good right now. Is all that bitching and all that prayer that I've been doing since we first got this property of, man, they need to get rid of that shit. That shit's growing too big, it's growing too big, it's growing too big. Somebody sold that mill.
And they're not gonna let it burn.
Somebody just sold that shit. And there's a wood mill that's been there since 1905. Just got sold.
There's somebody there with a motorcycle. Truck. Come on, motorcycle.
They done come through and cleared that. They ain't gonna let their wood timber burn. But because they done cleared all that, we ain't got all that underbrush, that's hella bad. That's gonna be fucking crazy. And they ain't got no branches low.
No.
That'll be a little bit of a break for us.
Somebody coming that way.
Migration like mother, everybody got their shit packed. Trying to get the fuck out. People camping and everything. Oh my car. Quarters of a tank of gas. That's the beautiful thing about where we're at right now on the property, kids. I told Abuela, there ain't no fucking way I'm building you no shit like you want. That shit'll burn up. We would invested what we did and got, instead of buying the shit that we did and been lazy and just got right here and had a house built, gone. We just leave them some tarps and keep it simple. We're trying to build up, but that's also why we're still going to use the timber, but I don't know what's going to happen. All right here hasn't been cleansed out yet. This is us on this side. We've been slowly trying to thin stuff out, but that big ass monster is above us. We can do is do a square pattern around where our living quarters is. That's what I've slowly been trying to do over and over and every day break stuff down.
Would you roll just
I gotta hop out and get the gate.
Okay, let's do a load.
Load the trailer up, unload the trailer, and load the trailer up.
Yeah, have everything ready.
Everything ready to go. Just fucking little chainsaw frenzy on that one side where I was thinning stuff out. We just cut the whole shit down. That's gonna be campsite and fucking food garden. And solar. Excuse me. Lucky, beautiful thing about fully flexible solar panels and shit, they don't take up no room in the rolling over here like fruit roll-ups. Keep it simple.
Democide it has on the list. Immediate evacuation. An hour ago, it wasn't on the list, so it's moving fast. Okay. Are we gonna have to go get something in the panels that are roll up, right?
Yeah.
Okay, then I'm not backing up like this to the trailer right now because we're gonna have to go to the garden. Okay.
Let's get these metal cases off of the thing. Let's get these metal cases off. Fuck. If I can only thin out some more things. Oh, what the fuck? Look, there's a mouse on the ground right here, Maria. Are you seeing this? Maria. Look it.
Mice?
Yeah.
It's blind, huh?
Oh, look. Psst, 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 psst. I'm sorry, buddy. I know. It's like those sheep and stuff down there laying on the ground.
Yeah, let's do this. We gotta get moving.
You gotta get out of here, buddy. $48. I got that message 20 minutes ago. Alright. Brownsville.
Brownsville?
Yeah, that hit like Brownsville and then in Challenge. I got the message, the 4th or 5th message, because that's why I was looking at your phone, because it was vibrating. Phone was vibrating. grab the trailer. We'll need it to move stuff once shit's burned up.
Already hot? Or have it laying like that?
Laying flat, I guess, there. Wow, that's a beautiful color. Look at that color, Mimi. The winds look like it's blowing this way. Still, getting luminous. Getting everything together. Still here. Just got the solar kit. Embers that were falling. Straight embers, like embers. Fire embers. This right here on the ground, all this black stuff. I'm surprised no more fires, dude. Spot fires. Big embers. Trees exploding. That's all this black stuff is. Big old chunks of burnt. It was on fire. The wind looks like it's going. It's still coming south. Southeast a little bit. Feels like it's not as black as it was. I gotta look at that burn map that Willa got on our phone. So I think it might miss us. Some bear fire. Quincy's up above us. Let's see what happens tonight, kids. Alright, venture out on the Forbstown Road, Reservoir Road, and see what it looks like coming down. This fire before was down below us and burnt over, almost burnt up, and if it would have crossed, it would have burnt from below us. This one, this time from Quincy, is up above us again, but if it crosses the Yuba Gorge, it just might get us. If not, it's on this side. But it looks like the way the clouds is, it's on this side. So I want to go check and see if I'm correct. Then this, inshallah, won't burn to us, because then they got the river ravine. But that also makes it hard for the firefighters and airdrop. It makes it harder for the wind to help the fire in the means of which they've been feeling them, because it'll be in the canyon. Blow that shit back on itself. But it looked like the mass is right there. So it's due north of us, like I was stating. Good thing that they cleared out that stuff. That big old clear patch. We was looking at in GPS and seeing that They cleared out a lot of stuff. Hopefully, it helps us. It will. Even in wind now. Hopefully the valley air blows back up on itself and it kills itself out. It's as dark as if it would be midnight, 8 o'clock.
I just did. I just watered the plants. And we're done it.
Mix 95.1, The Drive at 5, and Mark Chase at Big Studios, brought to you by Nevin and Witt Insurance Services, with a big thank you for everyone at the Inlow Medical Center. Loving can hurt. Loving can hurt sometimes, but it's the only thing that I know. When it gets hard, you know it can get hard sometimes. It is the only thing that makes us feel alive.
straps or something? Get the straps right now. Load your shower or anything, your bathtub, shit like that?
No, honey.
You don't care?
Not that I don't care, Ezekiel. Please stop putting it that way.
We got time, we got space,
No, I'm
honey.
not grabbing the bathtub. Thank you.
You don't want to grab the propane tank thing that's over there,
I
honey?
already did. There's no propane there. I already did. There was a small bottle.
Did you get your shower kit? Or you starting fresh? I'll let you get one. I don't know why I'm grabbing this shit, man. What the fuck, what's up here for? This just use time? Just to do. tools together. Like this shit right here. Since you took this from me, this right here is needed to rebuild. If we have to rebuild, if not, we don't have to rebuild. We still need the fucking tools. Okay? It's not that hard. Standing around eating shit, fucking moving around, fucking doing this and that. Other than grabbing the stuff that are tools. We need your radio saw. We need the sawzall. We need our tools. Please don't really be an asshole. Keep fucking looking at stuff, but we need just a simple thing. Have the opportunity not to have to replace the shit, it would be good. Fire don't come through, we might get looters. We already had, as you seen, one person come and see and turn around. That is fucking cinder rain. Anybody hit that shit with that wind tonight like they was doing? Oh my god, they're gonna burn up all of them fucking mountains. You hit that shit with that wind last night? It's a wrap. Everything gonna be on fire. Flashlight underneath there. And sawzall. Generator things on there and the car alternator so we can make power for it. Solar kits. Grab them motherfuckers. Those guys. It's fucking almost $1,000 right there we don't got. We don't have to replace. Price value. Car on the road. People to go fight the fire or see, because there ain't no. That road don't really go nowhere. Look at the ash on top of the car from us just being here. Shouldn't say ash, but fucking. We pack up, stay the night. Huh? I'm saying. Oh, this is to do.
No, so nothing happened. This is how it was on the little trailer. And to put it on that trailer, I had to do is
What do
connect.
you mean? You bought it's a kit from the store.
Yeah, honey. But the wire was cut to put through the little trailer because it wouldn't get through it. The axis was too large. So we just did this connection here. Basically, gonna do one of that together for the colors.
You heat the plastic with a lighter, you can wrap it.
Just fancy papers. Somebody's literally going around with speakers.
I don't know why they stopped. Didn't say nothing to us. Oh, strange. The lights started blinking when the people came. I didn't stop. It sounded like they just hit the neighbors down there. They got their generator on blast. Put it right here. I heard that sound before and something in. See? Inshallah, this isn't burning nothing up. We got a clear cut they make so that we don't got no issues. We're gonna have to drastically change the way our topography looks. And get that hole over there dug out where we get water. Just because this passes this, we just now starting fire season. We need to start fire season. October, November to go. Maybe even December the way these motherfuckers do the weather. Okay, get your head out of your ass, kid.
got them next to you? Good job, boy. Look at that. That shit's real looking. Wow. You can hear the embers falling out of the sky. It's creating its own updraft. Pick up. this shit attached. That bit go forward.
there, you want it? Oh, there's a metal. You can. Metal.
Thing that sucks about this fire, where's that? Where it's going? I don't hear no airplanes happening.
No, me neither. I don't hear no helicopter, nothing. They go little back on the west.
I don't hear nothing. Man. No, nothing. I'm like, what?
This is the same fire that it's been burning. It's supposed to be 70% contained. It's gonna be
ain't good if we got wood weevil, Bubba.
Yeah.
Protect that. Otherwise, this is national forest.
And that they just bought that whole plot of trees that they're not gonna let burn. let go of the generator. Okay. She's saying that's good.
Lightening up. Take a drive down without the trailer. Or it's on Reservoir Road. That's it.
Right here. You're getting a little bit. Probably do that and then you have to hold it. Use it now.
Put the hook over here. Before you do that, put the hook over there. Let's see if you got enough iron in it. That's all necessary. So just stick it in and press it. That other folding thing you're doing is not really necessary.
Yeah.
You just stick it in right. Buttons out. This is Keshe's battery? No, this is 412. Isn't it Keshe's battery? Yeah. Alright.
The net is underneath the case.
The sawzall is the only thing I'm missing. Black sawzall in the case.
No, I put it there, right next to it. It's underneath your eyes. Right there.
The sawzall? This is the radio saw, honey.
Oh.
The sawzall is in a black case.
Isn't it on the trailer?
I don't know.
Yeah, didn't you put it underneath the seat on the trailer?
Reciprocating sound put stuff.
Oh, sure.
Everything's gonna be alright, I'm sure.
Yes, everything's gonna be okay. Do we need the net on this? Net it up? I don't think we have where to grab the net though.
No, that's what I was saying earlier. Is it don't got no lip or nothing. No lip. No lip to stick to. Man, it's blowing like motherfucker. Shit. Okay, so stick or something to stick in this fucking thing right here. I'm just gonna fly with them. So a helicopter right there. There's a strap. Very good. Tie this thing down. All the excess strap tied down. That's the only thing we got. Inverters, alternators, solar panels, and a bed. Only thing we got. Grabbed all of our propane tanks, small butane tanks inside here. Ready lines, our winch.
Wait.
There you go.
No.
You turn your dial up your head.
Okay. Ready?
Victory letter.
I sabotage myself every turn.
A planned use so that more workers are picked.
Sporting and its failure to maintain a lead in the businesses of the 21st century.
In all digital sectors, German companies are lagging behind those in the US and many parts of Asia.
But none of the economists we've consulted say Merkel's leadership has been below par. Far from it. Germany's economy grew by over a third during her tenure, 1.5 times the growth rate of its nearest EU rival, France. Merkel survived at least 4 major economic crises, and after 15 years, she's still on top. At the European desk, I'm Stephen Beard for Marketplace.
Turn it down. Where's the mess? You got your mess?
The final note on the way out today, in which Big Brother really is watching and has ruined Halloween in the process. Saw this on Reuters today. Hershey's, the chocolate people, is working with Google, the everything people, to tailor digital Halloween ads to you. Seems they can tell whether you are more likely to let your kids go outside to trick or treat, for instance, based on what you've been searching for, and so will serve you ads, say with kids in costumes out running around. If they think you're going to stay in, it's kids eating candy inside. It's
How do
weird.
they think?
Creepy.
They know.
Indeed.
Disgusting, folks, and it should be banned and outlawed. The chocolate they selling to your kids is fucking GMO.
That there is no program. You can live in the States for 30 years, and I know people have done this, and not be documented. And who does that benefit? And the answer is everyone but working people. So the most wealthy folks who are often those owners of food processing. And if we come together and can see beyond these fear tactics and scapegoating, I always tell people, I want people to do things because it's altruistic, but I also think there's nothing wrong in something very powerful in self-interest. Good old self-interest, nothing like it. If you're born in the United States, don't fight for all workers, including undocumented workers' rights, because it helps others. Do it because it helps you. It literally raising the federal minimum wage, slowing down the line speed for chickens and pork and all that. All these other things will help you. Do it for you.
That is such an important message. I'm so glad you brought up the case of, why are people coming here? Who would want to leave their country and their home and their family? So asking why people are coming over the border, asking why conditions are so bad, I think is a really good place to start. So, Mr. Bicchieri, I want to thank you so much. I want to make sure that people know about your work, know about your organization. I will provide a link to many supporting documents to all of the topics we've been talking about. Unfortunately, we have to close. I need to thank our listeners for joining us. I want to remind everyone that Food Sleuth Radio is produced by Dan Hemmelgarn for KOPN Studios in beautiful downtown Columbia, Missouri. Most of all, I want to thank my guest, Mr. Leone Jose Bicchieri. He is the founder and executive director of Working Family Solidarity. I'll provide a link to your organization. Are there any other places you would like people to go to learn more?
Well, again, I'm a big local guy, so I would urge you to look in your city, county, state, look for different social justice, could be a union, a religious group, a community group. Ask around, right? So that way you learn. Then maybe a certain group is known for great integrity, right? And then you want to become involved. So look around locally, and then, nationally. A lot of the farm worker unions, check into the ones most active in your area, working families out there. If you're in the Chicago area, or if you reach out to us via our website, I can try to help you find folks in your area. The USDA, you can push your Congress people to change laws to slow the line speed. So a lot of work can be done around federal minimum wage going up and health and safety at plants going up, and also the safety of animals and how all of that is done. Contact different animal rights groups. They'll have a lot of strategies.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your work and for spending time with me today.
Absolutely. I was so glad to do it.
You are listening to community-supported radio, KVMR FM, Nevada City, KCPC Camino. For their support, we'd like to thank Four Paws Animal Clinic, providing medical, dental, surgical services, alternative therapies, and cat boarding for cherished companions on Searles Avenue, Nevada City. Dr. Susan Murphy and staff are proud to support KVMR. FOURPAWSAC.com. And the Center for the Arts, presenting the Ruckrich Duo, featuring 15-year-old multi-instrumentalist Django Ruckrich and his songwriting dad, Phil. Guest Joe Craven joins for this.
Bullshit. All packed up. Not very much we can take. Got the bed, tools to rebuild, and gas. Ex-landlord's ladder he let us borrow, so it don't get burned up. But we're gonna hang the tarp for our roof. That's why we've been saving for stuff. We're going with steel, baby. Steel frame houses and shit. Plasma tile on the outside that's fireproof. Yep. Hold on a second. You getting defeated by that thing?
No.
Okay. Ain't got enough space to pull it all in, huh? Fuck it. Grab all the gas, electrical stuff. Strap them on my side. Everything good. The generators, alternators, plasma. Is it gonna hold them?
Slack I got, otherwise I'd just do another turn outside.
Is it gonna stick to the thing?
Yeah, it's in it.
Okay. I'll do it. My keys are there. Have you seen my keys?
No.
Oh God, I didn't let the stupid motherfuckers next to the fucking. No, I didn't. I got into the van with him to get those generators.
And then you closed the van.
And
Did you let them at the door or something? Let me get out and see if they're under my butt, but I don't think so.
I drove down and got the solar kit.
Protests in Rochester, upstate, continued over the weekend, demanding justice for Daniel Prude. Prude, a black man, died from asphyxiation in March after police officers handcuffed him, put a hood over his head, and pushed his face into the freezing cold ground for 2 minutes while he was kneeling on his back naked. On Sunday, a group of naked and near-naked protesters wearing nothing but, quote, spit hoods protested outside Rochester's public safety building. New York Attorney General Letitia James announced she's impaneling a grand jury over Prude's case. The mayor of Rochester, Lovely Warren, has promised police reforms after nearly a week of nonstop protests.
It is my solemn duty as the mayor of the city to honor Mr. Prude, to not let his death be in vain, and to do everything possible to transform how we police our city, to truly protect and serve our residents.
Protests were held across the United States, including in Louisville, Kentucky, where armed right-wing protesters confronted anti-racist protesters during a demonstration ahead of the Kentucky Derby Saturday. This comes as Vice reports at least one of the officers involved in the police killing of Louisville resident Breonna Taylor was wearing a body camera when she was killed, contradicting earlier statements by the local police department. We'll have more on the Breonna Taylor case after headlines. In Portland, Oregon this weekend, over 100 days of daily demonstrations have taken place as police continue to violently repress protesters. Coronavirus cases in the United States have topped 6.3 million with a confirmed death toll of over 189,000. Cases are rising in 22 states, according to Reuters, as health experts warn the numbers could get worse following gatherings over the Labor Day weekend. Schools remain a site of new coronavirus clusters. Over 51,000 cases have now been reported across more than 1,000 campuses. The Wall Street Journal reported several major drug companies, including Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, and Moderna, will issue a joint public pledge to not seek government approval for a COVID-19 vaccine until they're proven to be safe and effective. This comes as concerns are growing. Trump is trying to rush the release of vaccine before the November election. During a news conference on Monday, Trump tried to coerce Reuters reporter Jeff Mason into taking off his face mask because his voice was muffled. Trump relented after Mason said he would speak louder. Mason's the former president of the White House Correspondents Association. Later on, Trump praised a reporter who took his mask off. "You sound clear," Trump said. As global COVID-19 cases top 27.3 million, India shot past Brazil to become the second most infected country with over 4.2 million cases. Around 1,000 COVID-19 deaths are being recorded daily in India. Spain's become the first country in Western Europe to top 500,000 coronavirus infections as the country's witnessed a second surge in cases amidst the easing of lockdowns and the reopening of schools. Greece has registered 10 cases of coronavirus in the overcrowded migrant camp of Moria on the island of Lesbos. In Russia, some frontline workers, including teachers and healthcare workers, are expressing concern over getting a coronavirus vaccine touted last month by President Vladimir Putin, which is still undergoing trials. Critics say it's still premature for widespread use and that the government rushed the vaccine's approval. Ukrainian officials say Belarusian opposition leader Maria Koleniskova has resisted being expelled to Ukraine by tearing up her passport at the border. On Monday, witnesses reported she was snatched off the streets of Minsk and driven off in a van. This all comes 1 month after the authoritarian president Alexander Lukashenko claimed victory in an election many say was rigged. On Sunday, 100,000 people took to the streets of Minsk as protests demanding Lukashenko step down continued to gain steam. In Germany, Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny is out of an induced coma and responsive, according to the Berlin hospital treating him. Navalny, a vocal critic of the Russian President Vladimir Putin, was poisoned last month with Novichok, a banned military-grade nerve agent, and airlifted to a hospital in Germany. The Kremlin has denied any responsibility for Navalny's poisoning. In Britain, the extradition hearing of WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange resumed this week after being delayed for months amidst the pandemic. Assange is wanted in the U.S. for exposing U.S. war crimes in Iraq and Afghanistan and faces a 175-year sentence on espionage and hacking charges. As he arrived at the London courthouse, Assange was arrested on 18 new charges from a U.S. indictment filed in June. Legal observers say they were barred from the proceedings. Protests took place in London and in cities around the world in defense of Julian Assange and press freedom.
It looks like a volcano erupted.
Father John Shipton speaking Monday as he left the
Top of the
courthouse.
after.
I was going to tell you. You go to China Gate?
Yeah. I want to stay the night. Wake up, get to cutting wood. Weather. She's not up for it. Oh, that's right there. There. Godspeed, fireman.
In 2010, a jury in his sixth trial found Flowers guilty and sentenced him to death. Last year, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled Flowers deserved yet another trial, saying prosecutors had engaged in racial discrimination for striking black jurors from the panel. President Trump said Monday he's open to an investigation of Postmaster General Louis DeJoy's campaign fundraising following a recent Washington Post report that said DeJoy's former employees at New Breed Logistics in North Carolina were pressured into making donations to Republican candidates and then later reimbursed through bonuses and illegal campaign finance practice. Trump said DeJoy should lose his job if he did something wrong. DeJoy, who is a Trump megadonor, has come under fire for recent changes at the Postal Service that have caused widespread delays and sparked major concerns over mail-in ballots in November's election. A federal judge in California temporarily halted the Trump administration from ending its census collection efforts 1 month early, pending a court hearing later this month.
Pull over for a second so I can grab the
This
chain.
bureau is being challenged by a coalition of rights groups, local governments, and Native American communities after it announced it would end its collection efforts at the end of September instead of at the end of October, which could lead to a vast undercount of immigrants and communities of color. Climate activists from Extinction Rebellion targeted media outlets around the country and around the world Friday to demand news organizations truthfully report on the climate emergency and stop financial conflicts of interest with fossil fuel companies. In Washington, D.C., activists staged a die-in in front of CNN's offices.
As one of the most powerful news organizations in this country, CNN has a moral duty to tell the truth to the public. It has a moral duty to inform people about the gravest existential threat humankind has ever faced. CNN is failing to fulfill its moral duty. Instead of telling the truth, CNN takes money from the fossil fuel companies that lie to the public.
Dozens of Extinction Rebellion activists in Britain were arrested as they blockaded access to printing presses of publications owned by Robert Murdoch, who's also the owner of News Corp here in the United States. And prominent peace activist, lawyer, and writer Kevin Zeese has died at the age of 64. Kevin Zeese was deeply involved in many anti-imperialist and anti-corporate movements, including the fight for universal health care and Occupy Wall Street. In 2019, he was part of a group of activists who occupied the Venezuelan embassy in Washington, D.C. to prevent it being taken over by Venezuela's U.S.-backed opposition. This is Kevin Zeese speaking from inside the embassy in May of 2019.
Still kind of drag, but put them in a loop. It's super hard drag.
Kevin Zeese ran the website Popular Resistance and a podcast Clearing the Fog with his partner, Dr. Margaret Flowers. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now! Democracy for his gun and fired a shot, thinking there was an intruder in the apartment. 3 officers then opened fire, hitting Breonna Taylor 5 times. The crime scene photos show bullet holes and traces of bullets in every room of the apartment and in 2 adjacent apartments. One of the officers, Brett Hankerson, was fired in June for shooting blindly from outside of the apartment, including through a covered patio window and door into Breonna's bedroom. The other 2 officers, Jonathan Mattingly and Miles Cosgrove, are on administrative leave. But none of the officers who killed Breonna Taylor have been charged. On Friday, the New York Times released a documentary about Breonna Taylor's life and death. It's called The Killing of Breonna Taylor. This is the film's trailer.
The last thing she said was turn off the TV. The next thing I remember was a loud bang at the door.
911, where's your emergency?
Somebody kicked in the door inside my girlfriend's free.
No one ever told me really what happened. I didn't find out that she was shot by a police officer until I saw it on the news. She had a very inviting personality. She was like a crazy on the phone. Attitude. The media tried to assassinate Breonna's character.
Just like that in real life.
Immediately there were red flags. There were bullet holes everywhere. It was a war zone in there. Once the shooting occurred, they never searched the apartment any further. Justice needs to be rendered. The question is, will that happen?
It has to stop.
That's the trailer for The Killing of Breonna Taylor. It's airing on FX and FX on Hulu. Well, for more, we go to Newburgh, New York, where we're joined by the film's director and producer, Yoruba Richards. She's the director of the documentary program at the Graduate School of Journalism at CUNY. We welcome you back to Democracy Now! It's great to have you with us, Yoruba. Can you talk about this 6 months after the killing of Breonna Taylor?
That looked like a fucking
Take us through what has happened, but start with what we know about that fateful night.
Thank you, Amy. It's great to be here again and to see you and to be on the show.
Like, how the fuck
what we know about that night is that there were 5 no-knock warrants.
I know it looks like when you guys Google search our house, it looks like nobody lived there.
To obtain
non-residential, their car's still there.
5 warrants on different apartments. One of who was Breonna Taylor's ex-boyfriend, Jamarcus Glover.
Gathering our shit together,
which was on Breonna Taylor's apartment. They were able to obtain these warrants because they say they had evidence that showed that Breonna was going to the scene at Jamarcus Glover's house in January and sometime in February that Jamarcus had used her name, her address as his address, and they said that was the reason they gave for thinking that there would be drugs or at Breonna's apartment. Now the lawyers and Breonna's family say that that was not up-to-date information, and that in fact, in order to obtain these warrants, you need to have very up-to-date information in the last 42 or 78 hours. And the last time, apparently that they had updated this information was in February, and this event occurred March 13th. So there's an issue with whether these warrants were valid. We know that the warrants were, the warrant at Breonna's house was not executed correctly because she ended up dead. The way that
they got what they wanted, they was executed correctly. No, not warrants. They do that for drug things. They always go in and just kill somebody, like they do in prison.
Announced themselves loud enough. The police say that they did announce themselves as they were breaking into the apartment. Kenneth Walker, her boyfriend, who was the survivor of that night, says he didn't hear them, and as a legal licensed gun owner as they were breaking into his apartment, he shot one shot because he thought they were being broken into, what's happening. So, and then obviously the barrage of shots, and Brianna was killed. And then after that, Kenny was...
Yeah, the loggers are gone, and we know all this shit's getting burned out. No, the trailer's still there.
Harrowing video from the neighbor you see in the film of him being taken to the country.
Something's going on. They ain't moved the equipment. And the loggers is still over here on Challenge Hill on Plumas. Yep. All the trailers are still there. Their trucks are there. Dudes are in their trailers. Their trucks are there.
And he ended up spending 2 weeks in jail.
Talk beer.
Until he was let out.
They've been over there logging for a minute. That means all their heavy equipment.
What happened to his girlfriend.
That means the fire gonna burn that way. I think I was looking at the picture that I downloaded on your phone.
Had gotten a call from Kenny that night as these events were happening. She ended up rushing down to Brianna's apartment. She doesn't live far to the apartment complex. She was told by the officer who's there to go to the hospital when, no one was at the hospital. So unclear why they told her to do that. She waited there. The hospital for a couple hours. The hospital told her that, there's no one that has, that no one has been, that Brianna was not there. Then she went back and waited to the apartment complex. Waited a few more hours, and then finally, was told that Brianna was still in the apartment, and so she knew that she had passed away, that she was dead when she found that out. And she did not know that police had shot her until the next day on the news. She was not given this.
Asked for help for an intruder.
Absolutely. He's called the police himself. He had previously called, as I said, Tamika and his Brianna's mom and his own mom, and then he called the police. And it's right in the call. You hear what he's saying. He's saying he doesn't know what's happening. Someone shot his girlfriend, and he's crying.
I want to go to a longer version of that clip, that 911 call that Kenneth Walker makes to the police that night.
How do you know what happened? Somebody kicked in the door and shot my girlfriend.
You said 26, where was she shot at?
I don't know. She's on the ground right now. I don't know.
Where the police ain't helping her?
Oh my God. Yes, I am.
What's her name? Is she alert, able to talk to you?
No.
You're reaching.
Where's the police at that did the warrant? That's not it.
You hear all in his voice. He doesn't know what's happened. Brianna's shot on the floor.
Why aren't they saying we're police officers?
I can't even imagine what that must feel like.
Shit happens all the time with the no-knock warrants.
They were in bed, lying in bed. He describes that night. They hear the breaking in of the door. They get dressed, really as quickly as possible.
Go to
Brianna's screaming out, who is it? Who is it?
That's the thing about these sheriffs. The sheriffs don't know the back roads and shit.
Says there's no answer. And then when the door comes,
a lot of these city folk that don't go around don't know either.
Falling in is when he let off a shot because he thought they were being broken into.
So I want to go to another clip from your film, The Killing of Breonna Taylor, where we hear from one of Breonna's neighbors who wished to remain unnamed, but first to Breonna's mother, Tamika Palmer.
So I started calling him, and he wasn't answering the phone, so I started calling Brianna.
Not with the trailer, but it was attached to the trailer.
She wasn't answering.
I'm roughly 100 feet from her apartment. My apartment does touch her in the top right corner. So all that was between me and the outside was the screen door.
That's just crazy.
I was watching TV. It was a little past midnight or whatever, and I hear a pop, pop, pop. Immediately after that, I heard two more pops, and that's when I pulled my blinds open to see what was happening outside. It sounded like the OK Corral.
And in this clip from the documentary The Killing of Breonna Taylor, we hear from Donovan Duncan, a Louisville police officer who lives in the same apartment complex
the only way to up is the way we came in the old Bronco trails.
Mother, Tamika Palmer.
We stood out there till about almost 5 in the morning. It just made no sense. Like, there's all these police out there and nobody's telling me anything. I don't
That road cut that's right there.
This is happening.
Before we take that cut that I found,
I need to see
connects into the bottom, connects into there.
I'm not at liberty to say anything that happened. And then
at the bottom where that power station is,
and they went and spoke to
Challenge for the school, across the way from the school. If we take that, that comes out all the way on the top. You can get up on the top there.
He comes back over and says they were almost done, and I said,
yeah,
okay, that's fine.
Now it crosses across the street where the power station is.
Ma'am, she's still in the apartment. So I knew then what that meant.
Again, that was Brianna's mother, Tamika Palmer. And before that, Donovan Duncan. Tell us about the Louisville police officer who lives in the same complex.
Well, Officer Duncan, he lives in the complex that Brianna lived in, and he does security there. So he, it's kind of like his second job. So he didn't know the events, what was going on until he got
like a fucking
on his
Poe movie or some shit. Everything's like Greg.
He went down there to see what's going on, so he was in the dark as well. And he was really just trying to help the process along, I guess, with in terms of separating the public from what was happening around Brianna's apartment.
So it's 6 months ago this week that Brianna was killed. Give us the timeline, Yoruba, on the reaction then, what people understood, and then what happened after the killing of George Floyd. How this case has grown to the point where this weekend at the Kentucky Derby, 6 months later, the massive protests are happening. The protests on the property of the Attorney General, the first African-American Attorney General of Kentucky, and so much more.
With the little bit that we got,
yeah, so
we don't got the ways to replace it.
The night she was,
especially then after COVID.
The early morning of March 13th when she was killed.
A little bit of tools to rebuild if we have to.
Tamika did not get much information or any information really from the police, and she called a lawyer, Sam Agriar and Lenita Baker, who were her representatives, and went in to meet with them. And they, immediately were struck by what had been in the press. In the press, it had said, drug suspect killed, or suspect killed in drug probe. That's how they were, that's how the cop was shot, and that's how it was being presented. And there was a sense that something was off here, that this was not the entire story. So they started to take on the case and doing their own investigation. Meanwhile, the friends and family of Brianna started on social media and saying that this narrative was wrong, that the media was putting out there. Kenny was still in jail. He was being called, a cop, shooting a cop. Brianna was dead. She was called a suspect in a drug probe, and they knew that this was not, that this was not the story. So they began tweeting and putting their social, putting the information out on social media that this needs to be investigated. We need to know what's going on. Kenny needs to be freed, and still, it wasn't until the killing of George Floyd that this case, and then of course Corona started, Corona shut everything down just a few days after this. And combined with that and
space program
the fact that there was no video in this case, as there had been video in these other harrowing events of black people being shot by police.
They got all their stuff gone.
Here that there was video,
they got his thing on the trailer
released. We don't actually know what video is out there because the LMPD has not given
that shit burns all the way down
any information, nor have the results of either investigation are released, and I'll get to that in a second. But it was the killing of George Floyd that people started to focus more attention on what happened to Breonna Taylor. And in the city of Louisville itself, protests and repeated protests began and really elevated until there was a takeover of Jefferson Square, which is an area right in the downtown Louisville where all the LMPD is, where the courts are, and the protesters took over that square and renamed it Breonna Taylor, renamed it for Breonna Taylor. So the protests have escalated, and with that, of course, the national and international attention. Now, at the same time, the reason why the protests have escalated because the LMPD has not released any information, pretty much, and in fact, they put out a blank incident report a couple months later that said that there were no injuries to Breonna. And that just enraged people even more.
I mean, this is absolutely amazing. This incident report, when it says injuries, it says none. When it says was force used to enter the apartment, it says none. When, of course, they used a battering ram. And, of course, Breonna Taylor was shot multiple times.
It's an outrage. I mean, what else can you say? And it fueled the anger of the community, rightly so. And meanwhile, the LMPD again has said nothing. At that point, Hankinson, one of the officers, was fired, but that took a few months for that to happen. And the other officers are still employed by the LMPD. Also, the investigation, so there are two investigations that are going on that people are waiting for. The Attorney General, Daniel Cameron, who you mentioned, he has an independent investigation turned over to his office, and then the FBI has been investigating as well. And the Attorney General are investigating, the investigation in his office are looking at the events that happened that night. We know he's given no timeline of when those results will be released. We found out a big thing that folks were waiting for, that we were told that people were waiting, that the investigation is waiting for, is the ballistics report, which will show which officer, which bullets hit Breonna. So that's still unknown. And that's part of the reason, that's the reason why the officers are in charge, because they do not know which the ballistics report has to tell them which officers, which bullets hit Breonna. We found out, I believe, the beginning of last week, that those ballistics reports has been released. They're in the AG's hands. But yet, still no timeline on when the results will be released.
So let's talk about Hankinson for a minute, because you go deeply into his record, and to say the least, you flesh it out. Hankinson is the one who shot in from outside the apartment through a window, and he's the one who's fired for firing blindly.
Exactly.
But after Breonna's death, a woman saw the names of the officers and said, "My God, that's the guy who went after me, who assaulted me, sexually harassed me." Explain Hankinson's record now that's coming out more and more as one woman after another comes out.
Yes, so Hankinson has a record previous to this of charges of excessive force and different charges filed in his police record, and none of that, all of those have been either cleared or dismissed. I
almost sunk my battleship, motherfuckers.
Then, as you mentioned, when this case started getting attention, a young woman who we interviewed in the film wrote on Facebook about her encounter with Hankinson at a bar where he does security, and asked her if she wanted to ride home late at night, and she said yes. He was an officer.
In his uniform, he picks her up. She was walking home from the bar about 10 minutes away, and he pulled over and said, "You want me to give you a ride home?"
Exactly. And she gets in the car. She says immediately he starts rubbing her leg, calling her baby. Her she started getting really scared. She knew this was wrong, and when she gets out, when she gets to her house, she flies out of the car and tries to get away from it as quickly as possible. She texts her friend that night that this would happen and that he was an officer and this creepy, what she says, creepy cop did to her. And her friend immediately files a report on the portal of the LMPD about what happened, and no response. Then, as this case comes to light, Emily tells her boyfriend that that's the same cop. He calls the LMPD and tries to file a complaint. Nothing. So she posts it on Facebook. She posts what's happened to her on Facebook, and she starts getting all of these other women coming forward, a few other women coming forward and saying they had similar encounters with her, with Hankinson. One, similar sexual misconduct encounters with Hankinson, and two of the women, Emily and a woman named Margot Borders, have talked to the FBI in their investigation of this case.
Now you have most recently prosecutors reportedly offering Breonna Taylor's ex-boyfriend a plea deal if he names Breonna as a member of an alleged organized crime syndicate in return for leniency on drug charges. This is Jamarcus Glover, who turned down the plea deal. Prosecutors now deny naming Breonna as a co-defendant in his case. He was facing something like 10 years and he would get out.
There's no denying that there was written up this offer. I think he said it was a draft of an offer or something. I'm not exactly
and he put all
sure.
these particulates in the air.
But yes, there was this this offer to Jamarcus in some form about naming Breonna Taylor as a co-conspirator. And I just want to point out, Amy, I really think it's important to emphasize that no drugs or money were found in her apartment, even though the police said that they stopped the search because of the events of that night. But as I say in the film, they could have done the search days later. If that's the whole reason these whole events came to be, because they thought drugs or money were in the apartment. And then even further than that, even if there were drugs or money in the apartment, which there weren't, people deserve, we're supposed to be a democracy where you have a fair trial. Are African American citizens not deserving of a fair trial, of an indictment and a fair trial, if that's the case? You don't go in and the police can't be judge, jury, and executioner. We have to always come back to that guilty or innocent. And this woman was innocent, but guilty or innocent, people deserve a fair trial. And this is not the way we go about, we should be going about prosecuting supposed crimes.
And finally, Yoruba, you mentioned you're going to say it looks like in the last days there may have been police body cam footage. That's number one. And also, what was it like for you as an African-American woman, as a filmmaker, to go to Louisville, to do this documentary, to sadly not meet Breonna herself, but meet her through the memories of others, to flesh out her story, to learn about her as a human being?
Well, I'll take that on first, because the thing that I felt when I went to Louisville and started talking with her friends and her family and Kenny, and seeing the city and how the city was in this uprising around her killing, I felt the trauma. I personally felt the trauma that we endure as African American people when we hear and see another police killing, which, by the way, we also know is nothing new. It's happened for generations and generations and generations. And it's a trauma that we have in our community, that I saw in her community, and that we have as a people. And that is really one of the things that I want people to understand when they watch this film, that these are traumatic events that affect it's not just the loss of one young woman, it's the loss of the best friend. It's the loss of the mentor to her 2-year-old goddaughter. It's the loss of her and Kenny's future. It's not just one person dying. It has reverberations throughout. One person being killed by the cops and the officers who we pay to protect, but it's the loss who we pay to protect and serve us. But it's a loss of the entire community.
And the idea that there is footage, actually.
And yes, so because the narcotics unit, which were the first officers on the scene to enact to execute the warrants, because of a policy passed in 2015, they don't have to wear body cam footage. But there were so many body cameras. There were all these other officers there, and as you see in this picture, that some of them were wearing body cams. But again, none of this has been released. No, none of this has been released. The LMPD has released nothing.
And the protesters are facing off against the very police department that they are protesting.
Absolutely. And you really see what I saw there too, and you see it in the subsequent protests, the militarization of the LMPD and so many police departments across the country. For the most part, these protests were peaceful, and they would be every night, and you would see these, heavily militarized police who just only antagonize the situation, coming, and confronting these protesters. And again, this is something that we're seeing all over the country.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Yoruba. Yoruba Richard, director and producer of the New York Times presents The Killing of Breonna Taylor, now streaming on Hulu. She's director of the documentary program at the Graduate School of Journalism at CUNY and a former Democracy Now! Producer. Thank you for joining us, Yoruba. Congratulations on this film.
Thank you, Amy.
When we come back, how Donald Trump helped kneecap the Robert Mueller of Latin America. We'll look at how the Trump administration helped kill off a powerful anti-corruption commission in Guatemala in exchange for Guatemala's supports of Trump's policies on immigration and in the Middle East. Stay with us. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org. The Quarantine Report. I'm Amy Goodman. How Donald Trump took down the Robert Mueller of Latin America. That's the headline of a new investigation by Reveal at the Center for Investigative Reporting and in the Daily Beast that looks at how the Trump administration aided Guatemala's right-wing government to kill a powerful anti-corruption commission. The story centers on Ivan Velasquez, a Colombian prosecutor who headed the International Commission Against Impunity in Guatemala, known as CICIG, from 2013 to 19. A leading backer of the commission in the United States was former Vice President Joe Biden. After leaving office, Biden wrote, quote, "I made it clear that U.S. funding for Guatemala hinged on CICIG being allowed to continue its work." But the Trump administration took the opposite approach and agreed to withdraw support for the commission in apparent exchange for Guatemala's support of Trump's immigration and Middle East policies. In 2018, Guatemala moved its embassy in Israel to Jerusalem just after the United States did. A year later, Guatemala's then president the former comedian, Jimmy Morales, agreed to make Guatemala a safe third country, quote unquote, for migrants seeking asylum in the U.S. The agreement requires asylum seekers who journey through Guatemala en route to the United States to apply for asylum in Guatemala instead of at the U.S.-Mexico border. On August 31st, 2018, Guatemalan President Morales announced he was shutting down the Anti-Corruption Commission, which had begun investigating Morales himself, his son, and his family. Morales was flanked by 50 military officers. Soon tanks and jeeps with mounted artillery provided by the United States circled around the office of the commission. Reporters Aaron Glantz and Aniansi Diaz-Cortez write, quote, all of this shook Guatemalan society to the bone, a dark reminder of the civil war and military rule, unquote. Before it was disbanded, CICIG had prosecuted over 100 cases, including one against former Guatemalan President Otto Perez Molina, who was forced to resign in 2015 after months of massive protests and remains in jail. Well, Aaron Glantz and Aniansi Diaz-Cortez both join us to talk about their reporting for Reveal and the report in the Daily Beast. Aaron, why don't you talk about the significance of releasing this now? I mean, this is a story that involves President Trump, that involves Vice President Pence, that involves Sheldon Adelson, the big Republican donor and connections to Israel, that involves Colombia itself. Ivan Velasquez is a crusading human rights prosecutor who is attempting to do this work in Guatemala.
Ivan Velasquez, who is the person who blew the whistle to us, had taken down presidents and paramilitaries in Guatemala and in Colombia, and he was known as the Robert Mueller of Latin America. He was brought to Guatemala in 2013. As you mentioned, he had the strong support of Vice President Joe Biden, with the idea that if tens of thousands of unaccompanied minors are arriving at the U.S. border every year, that it's in the U.S. interest to improve conditions in Guatemala by lessening the amount of corruption and impunity in that country. And so, as you mentioned, Ivan Velasquez, shortly after he arrives in Guatemala, he throws the president, Otto Perez Molina, a former member of the ruling military junta from earlier, in prison for running a customs ring at the airport and his involvement in that. But as you mentioned, then Donald Trump comes in office, and we see an entirely different dynamic take place where these two former television stars, Donald Trump and Jimmy Morales, both with a documented history of racism, band together to kill this anti-corruption force and save themselves.
To go to Ivan Velasquez himself at CICIG, talking about what happened.
President Molina is still President Trump. I understand what you're going through. Yo lo comprendo. You are being persecuted by Robert Mueller in the States, and being persecuted by Ivan Velasquez in Guatemala. I know how much you stepped towards. When Ambassador Miguel visits Guatemala, he's an excuse to show up for programs. He's serious complaints. Startling press conferences, anonymity. That is what is expected by Roland City. Intel transaction with both parties seek to win something. Usted apoyarnos a nosotros. Esta persona desaparece contra nosotros. You have pressure wave this persecution on this side of CICIG, and we will help you. And how do you shut down CICIG? By cutting the funds. Y eso fue finalmente lo que logró.
I want to go to March 2018, when then U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley,
Evacuating, person evacuating.
Policy Conference in Washington, D.C., and thanked Guatemala for supporting the Trump administration's decision to recognize Jerusalem.
I would withdraw up there on that junction.
To Guatemala and Honduras.
Coming out from Marlboro.
the U.S. was recognizing their move embassy to Jerusalem, how this is all a part of the story.
Well, I think the important thing to remember, Amy, is that this commission was basically set up to do kind of the hard labor, the boring labor of institution building after decades of civil war and U.S. involvement in supporting military dictatorships here. So, when we look at Biden's support of the CC and the contrast to what begins to happen when
$1,000 on replacing the hydraulic hose.
Jimmy Morales for corruption, then you see lobbying on the part of, Guatemala sending signals to the U.S. to then support the United States in moving the Guatemalan embassy to Jerusalem as a way to tell Trump, I understand your suffering. You have Robert Mueller, like he said, you have Robert Mueller in the United States. I have Ivan Velasquez here. Get the CC out of my hair in exchange for quiet immigration policy in Guatemala. And we see how
all the gold patents and all that.
First with Nikki Haley visiting Guatemala and telling Ivan Velasquez, tone it down.
They struck in the heart of the motherfucking
press conferences. And then kind of the days later, she is with Jimmy Morales there as well, announcing this. And that leads to a slow demise over the year. It's also important to just acknowledge that in order for CC to work, CC recommendations based on what they believe should happen. But really, it is the Attorney General and the
patented land.
who implements these recommendations.
Then that shit looks scary.
Morales, who's the Attorney General then, and Velasquez were changing. They were working together. The moment that Velasquez goes into Morales' family, that changes, right?
What's crazy is it looked like all the smoke from down here is gone.
And Velasquez
somehow they didn't electrostatically charge it and it's up that way. Because there ain't no smoke in their fucking headlights or nothing.
Morales goes after and indicts, and this weekend Interpol said they're not going to honor any arrest warrants.
That's a trip. And this shit was smoky as fuck when we drove down that morning.
We don't get into that story in the radio show because there's so much to get into.
Wow, you can see the fire right there. There it is. Yeah, there's the red. Baby, waiting for the afterglow.
We say in our piece, it was a dark reminder of the days when Guatemala had previously been ruled by U.S.-backed military.
Hope crawling everybody we know is alright. Anybody we don't know, hope y'all alright.
Oh, I'm gonna get Linda Hecker on Facebook. She's on Facebook.
To help turn the page.
Hope y'all alright.
Towards a more just society and
everybody I know on the hill, all old folks now.
All those military members that the U.S. provided tries to get back in, they won't let us in, and they send goes in that go bag? Well, here's a list of suggested items, courtesy ReadyNevadaCounty.org. 3 days supply of non-perishable food and 3 gallons of water per person.
map marked with evacuation routes. A list of important numbers in case your cell phone is lost. Prescriptions, special medications, assistive devices or durable medical equipment, battery-powered or crank radio, extra batteries or cranks, pet and service animal supplies, change of clothing, sturdy shoes for walking, extra eyeglasses or contact lenses, an N95 mask, an extra set of car keys.
Property makes it do this. We got a clear cut and everything, because still we got to go through.
Supplies, cell phone charging.
We got a clear cut around so that
diaper bag.
ain't got no issue when the car container go up there.
And maintain copies or digital records from passport.
Got to get Casey worked on, get the hydraulic fluid and all that going so we can get everything right.
Policies. You got it. All right. Wildfire safety starts with you. More information at readynevadacounty.org. And thanks.
That scrap place, since the steel beams only is that much, that shit's basically the same amount as if we was going on high class wood, you know?
For the upcoming hour,
except at least the buildings still be there.
And Grass Valley Hydro Garden offering garden supplies, greenhouse, hydroponic, and light systems. Also organic soils and
buildings still be there.
Ag Natural is on Idaho Maryland Road and Grass Valley Hydro Garden on Clydesdale Court.
We're gonna have to order
at
that
Grass
bigger
Valley Hydro Garden store.
HHO system. Start making fucking tile plates. Ash coming down here, it's crazy because that shit started a fire down in this prairies.
It's hella hot up here, down here.
Still got my Google account fucking fucked off. So I ain't got no damn emergency response now.
Look on my phone on the last page that I put up. It was something about they calling it the Bear Fire and the North something fire. Just when I need that motherfucker. Clear them out, fire. It's 42 minutes.
heard this one. It's not saying nothing about Forbstown. But it's saying for Plumas. The port.
I did go there.
No, I understand. This thing just put up 42 minutes ago. It says La Porte, Little Grass Valley. This Plumas County, Butte County. It says you can use the map to show where active evacuations were for Butte County and for Yuba County, Strawberry Valley, and Clipper Mills. So Challenge isn't being evacuated. Where those lockers are?
Yeah.
That's not being evacuated.
But Forbstown is. Just because he's on that side.
I'm gonna go on the map to see. Better. So there's Buller's Bar. And got evacuation warning for Bangor, Oregon, whatever it looked like. By the way, that shit looked like Brownsville, Bangor, Palermo, Clipper, Newark House, Oregon House. If that's a road, which I know the way that road looks like, yeah. That's the UWAP, that's her driveway. There's that thing coming up that way, that's LaPorte Road. And that little funny crook thing right there is where our lower driveway is.
Any more news? Like, do they say anything else?
just below the shit, yo.
From where they're drawing the line?
No, it's just right on the other side of the property line. That's what's funny. There's Forbstown Reservoir Road. Could have stayed at the house, yo. Right on the opposite side of the red line. Yeah, barely. No hope. There's Forbstown Reservoir Road right there, going down into the valley. Like I was saying to you before we hooked to the trailer, I wanted to go see. I had a feeling it's on that side. And go see. We know we have our property or that shit burnt to the right of the big water pipe.
Yeah.
If it's burnt to the right, we ain't got no property. That ain't gonna be burnt the fuck up.
You say, why aren't they grabbing water from Little Grass Valley and exhausting it? There's so many water places close to us.
He got his own weather pattern and shit, Creighton. The helicopters can't really fuck around like that. So they say. Yep. And some lucky fucks. At the moment.
Well, I'd rather get these done without no rush and then.
There's Forbstown, yeah. That's Forbstown Reservoir Road, so that's where that shit articulated. This shit don't move. Wow, that's crazy. So, Forbstown Road, all of Butte, Forbstown Road, all of Old Forbstown Road, all of Old Forbstown is underneath evacuation.
Yeah, the market, all of underneath it, because the sign of Butte County is right below us.
All of it is, except for, that's what I think is insane. There's Clipper Mills. So Clipper Mills is in it.
No Woodleaf.
Clipper Mills. Woodleaf is outside of it. And we're right next to Woodleaf. That's why, like, the barrier's right there. Those gorges. Those river gorges. They can keep that from crossing over, like I was saying earlier. Then it won't burn the fuck down and burn our property. Challenge, Brownsville, Oregon House, fucking Woodleaf, fucking Thousand Trails, the whole shit. Because that shit will take off and burn all the way down to fucking Lomariga. Claremont and the whole shit. That shit hit this grass down here and fucking, especially with the rice fields, is the perfect conditions to set the whole rice fields, the whole fucking valley be on fire. Burning all the way across motherfucking to the buttes to Calusa.
Yeah, me with the first on fire.
I'm being serious though.
Yeah, me too.
Just all the fields down here are dry for fucking harvest. They're drying them out.
I know.
Yep, we right there. Mount Hope. Top of Mount Hope. Woodleaf right next to us. That's interesting. That's why, I guess that's why they was going and not saying shit to us on our road. But I'm still like, hold on a minute. Cause that's what's the trip. Is Old Forbstown Road, where we're at, is not under evacuation because it's Yuba County. But for Butte, it is. Yuba County don't have it. But I guess because we're the only motherfuckers that live in Yuba County right there.
Yeah.
But they don't realize we're living right there. So The cutoff is right there where the reservoir road is.
Oh yeah, because that would be the last house. Well, pretty much the last houses.
Yeah. But that's literally where it's at. That's the cutoff right there. It's on the old reservoir road.
But it's like that's the guy that is the engineer, the one that works for Caltrain. Should he evacuate? Because he's literally past that road.
And what they done is put all the old road, all of old Forbstown Road up until reservoir. The reservoir is red, and then that link where Butte goes up to the powerhouse station, and circles up. Yeah, Clipper Mills and all that. Otto don't got fucking Ubi County saying that shit. That's what crazy. Fires have merged, the Claremont and the Bear Fire. The North Complex consists of numerous lightning fires being managed as one incident. The fires were ignited during a lightning storm that moved over the Plumas National Forest on the morning of August 17th. Remember that? Motherfuckers are still burning.
Yeah, that's what I just said. It's 3 weeks and they're having 80% contained.
51%. Fire is currently 40,000 and they even used for showing ominous looking time-lapse videos showing flames and massive plumes of smoke. Oh. Man, what fucking winds, dude, there last night. They hit us hard. Sheriff's Department has issued mandatory vaccine orders for residents in the area of LaPorte Road and New York Flat Road, north of Brownsville to the county lines at Butte and Plymouth. North of the intersection in Butte County were ordered to evacuate immediately due to the fire currently in Plymouth and Butte. It's still that misses us. The order included the communities of Forbstown, Woodleaf, Clipper Mills, and Strawberry Valley. But yet that still misses us. Clear. We're challenged.
Yeah. They're leaving it out. Nobody's claiming it.
Challenge isn't being evacuated.
But they're skipping it. Because you got New House Road.
That's just insane. Why would you let...
That's all to the right. That's all to the right.
It's still left and down. The burns through Forbes Town and it goes down, and there's a fire above the people. Why wouldn't you get people out of Challenge and that whole intersection that's from Challenge all the way over in that midsection between Challenge and fucking Dobbins? All those people do get trapped. If it burns down the New York house, there's only one way in and out. They should have burned the Buller's Bar, dude. That's insane. Direct hit, motherfuckers. Start getting people in Dobbins Park ready and shit. Here's the high-low siren approaching. Should have back at the area immediately. And it's still no fucking challenge, you know. Here's the high-low siren. I guess that was the shit that they were making that noise that we heard. I never heard that noise before. Jones fire. 100% continue. Crazy. Love and night, everybody.